Hello everyone and welcome to Season 5, Episode 35 of Pro Wrestling's Top 50. I'm your host Travis McNeil, and today we continue our countdown of the top 50 matches in NXT history with match number 16 on our list, which is the NXT Tag Team title match between the champions, The Revival of Scott Dawson and Dash Wilder, against the challengers DIY, Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, from the NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 2 event held on August the 20th of 2016. So I talked about it in the Revival and American Alpha video that I posted the other day, that, those teams kind of seemed like they were on, this collision course for a third kind of final blow-off match on a takeover. It ended up getting kind of shoehorned into an episode of NXT television with the 2 out of 3 falls match, and the Revival was kind of swiftly shifted over into this feud with DIY that would somehow turn out even better than the one with American Alpha did, in my humble opinion. These two teams had fantastic chemistry, and it was really kind of cool how we got to this match. So Gargano and Ciampa were kind of brought into NXT, thrown together as a tag team, as kind of like a surprise team in the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic in 2015. They ended up sticking around and being in the Cruiserweight Classic. And it was at that time, that they fully got WWE contracts and became part of the NXT system. I've talked about this a little bit before, when discussing their feud, but the entire time that they were a tag team, it seemed like this, slow build to Tommaso Ciampa, turning on Johnny Gargano. They had their match in the second round of the Cruiserweight Classic that Gargano won, and, would end it with that, kind of them sitting beside each other that, would be this famous, scene that they would recreate so many of their matches, as they, end up doing in this one, ironically enough. But I remember when this match happened at the time, I thought that there was no way in hell that they would win the tag team titles, Ciampa would turn on Gargano, and so on and so forth. But, they would continuously fool me, but more on that later. This match, though, it follows a pretty similar story to the one that the Revival and American Alpha match at TakeOver the End did, where, the Revival is this excellent tag team. They have this high in-ring IQ when it comes to tag team wrestling. And they, kind of undermine their opponents a little bit and end up getting surprised and out-wrestled and outperformed as a tag team. And this one has that extra little wrinkle. NXT would use the same kind of, underlying story for a lot of matches throughout its, prime run, where you'd have these wrestlers come in from the indies and they would be treated, as these independent guys that, can't perform on the high-end, WWE level. So we get a little bit of that underlying theme here. Right off the hop, though, DIY dominates. Scott Dawson bails out after Ciampa gives him, a couple of chops. And Wilder comes in, and they go for this double team. But something that I really, really love here, and it kind of establishes that story, is the frustration that builds in the Revival when they can't, quickly establish that they're this dominant tag team. When Wilder comes in to try to make this double team and make the save, he comes in as the illegal man. The referee tries to get him out of the ring, and that allows DIY to roll with the double team. So they kind of flip this script where, you have, the baby face make that stupid mistake out of, their fiery baby face passion. But here they do it with the heels, and it allows the baby faces to capitalize with some cool double team maneuvers. So it was this great little twist on a familiar script, and, it established the story pretty much right from the get-go. Scott Dawson, man, he is such an excellent professional wrestler, and obviously a great tag team guy. Really underrated as a singles wrestler too, in my opinion. And he does so many little things great. And there's a spot where he cuts Gargano off with like a big back elbow, and he just he sells his arm so good after his own offensive maneuver. And it's something that, later on gets tied into the match. So again, it's this nice little thing that makes a later part of the match so satisfying. And, you don't see guys do that a lot. You hit a back elbow, the dude you hit, of course, sells the elbow, but, you're perfectly fine. But it hurts, man. It hurts to punch someone, and, you can break your hand pretty easy. It hurts to elbow someone, right? So I kind of love that. And again, we'll talk later about where it plays in. But there's another just really kind of sweet spot where, the Revival are kind of about to go for this 2-on-1 on Gargano, and he rolls out to the floor. So both of the Revival guys give chase, but Gargano beats them back into the ring, and that allows Ciampa to come in and even the sides, so we get this big tag team square off. But again, so clever that all of these tactics that the Revival would normally use are not working whatsoever. At some point in the early goings, DIY gets the advantage, and they, tease that they're going to hit meet in the middle, that super kick knee double team that they do. The Revival bails from that, and then the baby faces kind of keep it on him. Gargano hits his cannonball off the apron, and Ciampa hits a big flying knee. Eventually, though, the Revival does get the advantage. It's a Revival tag team match. They're going to have, an elaborate, elongated heat sequence building to a great hot tag, just like the Midnight Express or any good Southern style 80s tag team would. But something that I really, really liked here is you have Johnny Gargano, who is an ultimate babyface. Just, in my opinion, of the kind of modern era, one of the best, fighting from underneath baby faces that we've had in, mainstream televised wrestling. So it would make natural sense that he would be the one worked over, and he would build this great tag for Ciampa. If you do play into, that this match is going to end in a turn, that would kind of make sense too, that, Gargano's the one that's picked apart and Ciampa grows frustrated with him or whatever. But again, they do the opposite approach here, and they do the heat on Ciampa, and it works out so good because, again, it's unexpected, and it leads to this great House of Fire Johnny Gargano babyface run off the hot tag. And how they got to this advantage for the Revival, again, was really, really clever. So these guys can't get an advantage no matter what they try. So they do kind of like a chase sequence on the outside where, one of the Revival members bail. Ciampa kind of chases him around the ring. As he slides in, the blind tag's made. Ciampa doesn't notice, goes after who he thinks is the legal man. Of course, it allows him to get jumped from behind, and they finally get that advantage. And they do so good building the heat and so great at teasing the hot tags. And they do kind of these great little spots too, that play off some of the standard Revival tag team cutoffs. So if you remember in the American Alpha video, I talked about, how there's this great moment where, Gable dives in for the tag and gets caught with a spine buster from Dawson. So they go for that spot, but, Ciampa sunset flips out of it and, almost gets the tag before getting cut off again. There's a really, really good spot here that I like too. It's so hokey and hammy and goofy, but it totally works. Where, Ciampa's about to make the tag, and Scott Dawson, Dash Wilder's like leaning over the ropes, holding the tag rope, trying to reach for the tag, and he falls into the ring, which of course, allows the referee to get distracted, try to get him out of the ring. The faces make the tag, the ref doesn't see it, and, we're back at square one. So, and while that's all going along, the referee's trying to get Gargano out of the ring because he didn't see the tag. Of course, the Revival gets a double team. They hit a big demolition decapitation. They always go into that old school tag team finishing move playbook, and they get a 2 off of that. So really, really, really good stuff. Finally, though, we get the hot tag to Gargano. He comes in, he hits all of his big offense, an overhead belly to belly, the schoolboy into the kick, the slingshot spear, all of this, really, really great stuff. He's getting 2s. He goes on a streak of just dodging all of Scott Dawson's great punches, but of course he dodges one with a duck, which opens him up for that DDT. I always love when he implements that. I'm a huge Arn Anderson fan, so always a big fan of that spot. Johnny ends up getting a fluke roll up, and out of that he tags Ciampa, who does a great job where, he kind of evades that punch DDT. So Dawson goes for the punch, Ciampa ducks, goes for the DDT, but Ciampa holds onto the ropes, and then he hits his float over armbar submission finisher that he would use. And this ties into that big back elbow at the start where, like I said, Dawson hits this elbow, really hurts his elbow, and his arm kind of favors it a little bit throughout the match, and now he's caught in an armbar on that bad arm. So again, just this great little callback that I absolutely loved. So they do a really good job, selling that could be a near fall, but of course Dash Wilder breaks it up. The near falls in this match are really what sets it out from the pack and makes it one of the best tag team matches in NXT history. You know, better than the great one, you know, ones that they had with American Alpha. And some of the near falls here, you bite on them. Even watching this match now, I know the result, but they're so good, and just watching the crowd react is excellent. So the Revival go for like a double suplex on Ciampa, and Gargano rushes in and spears one of them, and Ciampa counters it into an inside cradle for a really, really great near fall. There's another awesome spot where, you know, there's a big strike exchange between Dawson and Ciampa. There's a blind tag, and they go for the Shatter Machine, but Ciampa rolls that through into another pinning combination for a great near fall. And, you know, Gargano wipes Scott Dawson out with a super kick while that's going on. So again, you know, cuts off the tag break. It was all really, really great stuff. They end up hitting meet in the middle, DIY does, and you think that they've got, you know, the win. They've got one guy in the ring, but we get, you know, the old heel tag team staple where, you know, Scott Dawson puts Dash Wilder's foot on the rope from the floor and, you know, obviously breaks up the count. While all of this is going on, you know, you have this beautiful heartbreak moment where DIY thought that was it. They thought they won the titles. The crowd was behind them. You know, the rug got pulled out from underneath them. And in all of this chaos, Ciampa goes to the floor and Dawson posts him, just slams him head first into the ring post. While Gargano's, you know, kind of trying to get to him outside, Dash Wilder hits this mean, just nasty chop block on Gargano. They hit a big stomp onto his knee while he's in the Indian Deathlock, which was a Revival staple. And with the Indian Deathlock locked in, Gargano has no choice but to tap. And it's this great moment where he taps out and Ciampa's kind of just coming to on the floor after getting posted. And, you know, it's just heartbreak for all involved except the Revival. You know, you live to defend their titles another day. This match, of course, you know, would lead into the 2 out of 3 falls match, which I was lucky enough to see live at NXT TakeOver Toronto. More on that another time, though. The post-match here is great. You know, we get the faces sitting in the ring together again, like the Cruiserweight Classic. They get a big standing O from the crowd, and it seems like, you know, maybe Ciampa's gonna turn, but he doesn't, and it just ends up being this nice little moment. This match is tag team excellence, though. The fact that they would later top this is mind-blowing to me with how great this match is. It's got an amazing crowd at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn that elevates it, especially all those near falls in the end. A great, you know, underneath performance from Tommaso Ciampa, which is not something you'd see out of him a lot. Gargano being the great, you know, babyface off the hot tag. It was really a great role reversal for what you would expect out of those two. Just a tag team clinic by the Revival as always. Great twists on their normal moves and sequences and story that they normally do, and it led to an incredibly memorable match that holds up so well. And if you're a fan of tag team wrestling, this is absolutely something you want to check out. Slides right in there with all, you know, the classic Midnight Express matches of the 80s and early 90s with the rock and rolls, with the Southern Boys, and what have you. You can watch this match, of course, on Peacock. If you're outside the US, it's on the WWE Network. You can subscribe to my channel here on YouTube so that you never miss a video. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Wrestling50. And please join me again tomorrow as we continue to count down Pro Wrestling's Top 50.